Welcome to lesson number 6. Today we're going to be looking at the quadratic formula. So before we start, let's find the roots of the equation x squared plus 7x minus 18 equals 0 by inspection. So this is where you can use the riddle of what multiplies give me negative 18 and what adds to give me positive 7. And so in order to determine these two factors, we'd start by listing 1 times 18, factors of our product of negative 18. So it can't be 1 times 18 because neither of these will add to give me positive 7. So let's move on to 2 times 9. Well, to get positive 7, we could go 2 times 9 or negative 2 times 9, and negative 2 plus 9 would leave me with positive 7. And so then we could factor this. It's equal to 0. And so we would have x minus 2, x plus 9. And if we're looking for the roots, then all we need to do is pull these out of our brackets, and I would have x is equal to negative 9 and positive 2. So my roots are negative 9 and positive 2. Now we want to factor this equation using decomposition. Remember, with decomposition, we got to use this riddle. So what multiplies to give me my coefficient times my constant term, so negative 12 times 6, which would be negative 72, and what adds to give me negative 1. And so we'll start with our product. So 1 times 72 is the first one you could look at, and then we could look at 2. But if we keep on going from there, we want to add to be negative 1, and so we could look at 9 times 8. This is probably going to be the obvious choice. Negative 9 times 8 and negative 9 plus 8 are going to be our two factors. And if we're factoring by decomposition, remember these become my middle term. And so this is going to be 6x squared minus 9x plus 8x minus 12 is equal to 0. And then if I put these in my brackets and then factor out, continue factoring, I'm going to be left with 3x and 2x minus 3. And then I'm going to be left with positive 4, 2x minus 3 equals 0. And now we've got a group, so I'll group this term with this term, and we'll have 3x plus 4 times 2x minus 3 equals 0. And so my roots are going to be x is equal to negative 4 over 3 and positive 3 over 2. Last question here, after those two reviews on finding roots and factoring, is it possible to solve this quadratic equation, 2x squared minus 8x plus 5, by either of the above methods? So first of all, can we factor it by inspection? Well, it's harder to factor by inspection when we have this coefficient greater than 1. So let's try our second riddle, decomposition. Well, I need to have something that multiplies to give me 10 and has a sum of 8. And so if we start with my products 1 and 10, there's no way I can combine a 1 and 10 to give me 8. And so 2 times 5, again, no way I can combine 2 and 5 to give me 8. I can get close, but I can't. And so something like this is not factorable. So it's not factorable. We can't use inspection or decomposition, so we need to find another way in order to solve this. In the previous example, where we run into quadratic equations and functions that aren't factorable, we need to use the quadratic equation. So the quadratic equation, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where a can't equal 0, has the roots equal to x is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. The good news is so I guess the bad news is it's a big formula, but good news is it's one that you're going to be using so often that you'll probably end up memorizing it. And that's okay if you don't, because this is a formula I'll also be given to you. So find the roots of the following equations using the quadratic formula and give answers as exact values in simplest form and to the nearest tenth. So this equation is written in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. And our quadratic equation is x is equal to negative b plus and minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2 times a. Now, my a value here, because there's no coefficient in front of my x squared, my a value is equal to 1. My b value is equal to 2, and my c value is equal to negative 1. These are the values we're going to be inputting into our equation. So x is equal to negative 2 plus and minus the square root of 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 1 divided by 2 times 1. Now, one thing is when you're solving your quadratic equation, it's kind of best practice to do it in stages. That way you'll avoid making any errors. And so, as an example, I'm not gonna plug it all in at once. Although once you get better at using brackets, that is something you can do. So I'm just gonna do this in stages. So first of all, I have negative 2, and I have plus and minus the square root of 2 squared, which is 4, minus 4 times 1 times negative 1 is negative 4. So we're gonna have plus 4 divided by 2. And then we're going to simplify this, and we're going to have x is equal to negative 2 plus and minus the square root of 8 divided by 2. Now, remember, 8 we can simplify also to negative 2 plus and minus the square root of 2 root 2 divided by 2. Or, if we simplify even further, I can cancel out this, and this, which is going to equal negative 1 plus and minus square root of 2. And then if we plug this into our calculator, because we want, and so this is, my x values are going to be negative 1 plus root 2 and negative 1 minus root 2. And if we plug this into our calculators, negative 1 plus square root of 2, I get 0.414. I also get negative 1 minus the square root of 2. So my two values, if I round to the nearest tenth, are going to be 0.4 and negative 2.4. So 0.4 and negative 2.4. Let's look at C now. 4x squared is equal to 3 times 4x plus 5. So right now, my equation is not in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 or general form. So I need to get it into general form. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to expand this part of my equation. So we'll have 4x squared is equal to 12x plus 15. And then I'm going to bring my 12x and my 15 over the other side of my equation. So I'll have 4x squared minus 12x minus 15 equals 0. This becomes my a value, my b value, and my c value. And now I can plug it into my quadratic equation, or x is equal to negative b plus and minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. If I plug these in, I'll have negative 12 plus and minus b squared, which is going to give me 144 minus 4 times negative 15. So 4 times 4 times negative 15 is going to be negative 240 plus 240, because I'll have double negative there, and I'll divide that by 8. And so my x values, if once I simplify, are going to be equal to 12 plus and minus the square root of 384 divided by 8. So 384, let's see, 384 divided by 64, 6. So this can be simplified into plus and minus 64 times 6 over 8, or 12 plus and minus 8 root 6 over 8. And if we simplify it, 8 goes into this once, goes into this once, and goes into, or sorry, 4's, can't simplify by 8's. So 4's goes into this twice, goes into this twice, and goes into this 3 times. And so this is going to be 3 plus and minus 2 root 6 over 2. All right, so this is my exact value, and my my x's as decimals are going to equal 3 plus 2 root 6 divided by 2, 3.9, and 3 minus 2 root 6, so negative 0.